Hello and welcome to Worldview with the Hindu with me, Suhasini Heather. This week, a ceasefire between Israeli forces and Hamas puts a pause on violence there. We're going to take a close look at where India stands on the recent events as well as the historical issue.
The Prime Minister Netanyahu informed me that Israel has agreed to a mutual unconditional ceasefire to begin in less than 2 hours.
A ceasefire has been agreed between Israel and Hamas, ending an 11-day military operation in the Gaza Strip.
To start with, violence first broke out in Jerusalem, sparked by an alleged Israeli decision to evict 15 Palestinian families from an area of East Jerusalem, where tensions were already high over Israeli raids during the month of Ramzan in the area near Haram Sharif, or the Temple Mount as it is called, an area called Sheikh Jarrah. Hamas, the militant organization that controls Gaza, rained rockets down on Israeli territory. Israel then bombed Gaza buildings. In 11 days of violence, at least 232 people, including 65 children, were killed in Gaza from the Israeli bombings, and 12 Israelis, including 2 children, were killed due to Hamas rocket fire. Remember, more than 4,000 rounds fired by Hamas. In fact, an Indian caregiver from Kerala, based in a town called Ashkelon, was amongst those 12. Now, in order to understand India's stand on the violence, one must take a quick look at the historic position, which can roughly be divided into 3 different time periods. To begin with, the historical traditional position since 1948. From 1948 to 1992, India actually had a very strong position of support for Palestine right from the very beginning. And remember, the partition of Palestine, as it's called, actually came just a year after the partition of India. So India took a very strong stand against such a partition, particularly the British role there. For several decades after, including during India's non-alignment movement period, as well as its own traditional support for Palestine, we saw India consistently vote in favor of Palestine. It even supported a UN resolution, for example, in the 1970s, that likened Zionism to a form of racism. We saw a shift in that take place in 1992. Especially after the Gulf War had forced a rethink on several parts of Indian foreign policy options, whether it was the relationship with the Soviet Union, the defense partnership there, the new thaw with the United States, energy diplomacy. We actually saw the Narasimha Rao government come out and establish full relations with Israel. Remember, India had recognized Israel way back in 1948, but it had never established full diplomatic ties. So while the Rao government kept the traditional ties with Palestine affirmed, and that was something that was followed up from 1992 to 2014, we also saw India shift towards building better ties with both Israel and with Palestine. We saw as a result the first visit, first by an Israeli defense minister, then the president of Israel to India. India also built its bilateral trade, particularly defense trade with Israel, where Israel is a very important part today. At the United Nations, however, India stood firm with its cause in favor of Palestine. And we saw that take place in United Nations votes, where India did come out alongside the Palestinian position much more than the Israeli position. And then we saw the shift in 2014. That lasts more or less to the present, which is much more of a balancing act, if you like. In the past 7 years, we have seen a shift in Indian foreign policy towards the India-Palestine conflict in 3 specific respects. To begin with, we see Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu have exchanged the first ever prime ministerial visits to each other's countries. This was a huge scale up in ties between the 2 countries. India has also made it clear that it wishes to de-hyphenate its ties with Israel and with Palestine, choosing not to connect either the visits by its leaders or, in fact, any of the issues. But most specifically, where we have seen this shift has been at the United Nations, where India has really shifted what used to be unequivocal support for Palestine to a position which has really become a default of abstention. Now, this is true of votes at the UN General Assembly, at UNESCO, as well as the UN Human Rights Council, with very, very few exceptions, and you can count those. We have seen India abstaining on these issues. Even last week at the UN General Assembly, India abstained on the vote that criticized Israeli actions. And that seems to have become the Modi government's policy. So we're seeing these three shifts. Now, when it comes to the recent clashes between Israel and Palestine, India's position has been articulated in two speeches. Both these speeches were given by India's ambassador to the United Nations, Ambassador Tirumurti. One was given before the UN Security Council on May 16th, the other before the UN General Assembly on May the 20th. Both have been called a balancing act once again. And let's just take a closer look at these two speeches. India made it clear it condemned violence against civilians, it condemned rocket fire from Gaza into Israel, bombings from Israel into Gaza, but it didn't name either the Hamas or the Israeli Defense Forces or the IDF directly. Second, India called for a de-escalation, it called for a ceasefire, which has now taken place. It also called for the resumption of Israel-Palestine talks, either through the quartet mechanism or any other. And finally, India called once again for a two-state solution, what it calls Israel and Palestine living quote-unquote side by side within secure and recognized borders. So fairly anodyne statements coming from India that squarely put it on a tightrope, taking neither side's part. But that did not go down as well with the Israeli government as many would have expected. In a tweet on May 16th, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu actually thanked 24 countries for standing with Israel, but India was not amongst them. Now that's particularly stark given the relationship between Prime Minister Netanyahu and Prime Minister Modi. Remember, just in the year 2020, the two leaders spoke to each other on the phone 5 times. They spoke last in February this year. So let's just take a closer look at why Israel is not satisfied with India's stand as it was articulated at the UN in the last few days. To begin with, in its May 16th statement, India expressed its strong support to what it called the just Palestinian cause and its unwavering commitment to this two-state solution. Secondly, the Modi government emphasized that there must not be any changes in status quo, as Israel was accused of trying to do with those planned evictions at Sheikh Jarrah. Unlike the US and other countries that have supported Israel's right to defend itself, India has not made any statement that justifies Israel's actions and the killing of those civilians in Gaza. Remember that the danger of attempting what's called a realpolitik balance on what are matters of principle is often that you end up falling short of both stools and unpopular on both sides. So the question is, where is India's policy that has clearly shown a certain movement? It has moved from its traditional policy. We're now seeing much more balancing take place. What will happen in the future? In the next few months, certainly we can see 3 things that much will depend on. To begin with, what does the new US administration decide to do vis-a-vis Israel-Palestine talks? The question of whether they will push them in the new Biden administration as much as had been done in the past under the Obama administration, Clinton administration, and others. Remember, the Trump administration didn't push too much for the Israel-Palestinian talks. Its decision then to back Jerusalem as the capital for Israel more or less ended any hopes that those talks would take place. The second question, what happens now to the Abraham Accords? After this kind of violence that we've seen, will countries like the UAE and Bahrain rethink their newly established ties with Israel, the ones that they set up last year? Probably not. Even so, the question of where the Abraham Accords could have gone, there was much speculation that countries like Oman, even Saudi Arabia, may also consider a shift and now consider setting up full diplomatic ties with Israel. Will they still go ahead? And India, as a close friend to each of these countries in West Asia, is going to watch that very closely. And the third question is really, what will India's own membership of the UN Security Council? Remember, India is an elected non-permanent member in 2021 and 2022. Could its position at the UNSC now forced the Modi government to take a stand on the very issues where it has preferred to play safe. Abstentions may not actually work when the world wants to see India take a leadership role, particularly in multilateral settings. These are all events that are going to play out on the world stage. There's much more on our website as well, www.thehindu.com. My colleague Stanley Johnny writes a lot on the Middle Eastern, West Asian issues. You can also find India's speeches at the Indian website, pminnewyork.gov.in. There are, of course, several books on the Israel-Palestinian conflict. Many do take a partisan view, so you have to watch out for that. I'll give you my recommendations. I would recommend Jerusalem, the book by Simon Montefiore, for an understanding of the history of the conflict there. India's Israel Policy by P.R. Kumaraswamy retains a lot of substance on the past of India's policy vis-a-vis Israel. Also, former Indian ambassador Navtej Sarna has written a very interesting view on the special Indian link to Jerusalem. It's called At Herod's Gate and is a must read. That's all we have time for, but do join us again here on Worldview from the team here. Thanks for watching.